are going to tie this into the lab last week. So you give a little intro that after you do your homework and your quiz, do a little intro that last week we made phylogenetic trees, and we did that based on evolutionary relationships, right? Based on evolutionary relationships. And Dr. Elser is going to, is it okay?
I'm not sure if it's recording. It says record, but I'm not, it doesn't have any time. Does it normally count?
As long as it says REC, it's recording.
Yeah, it does. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I never,
Because otherwise
mine's
it
a
would,
little different.
it would say standby.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay, no problem. And in lecture, Dr. Elser, when he starts lecturing in the next week or two, he will be lecturing on evolution and the theories of evolution. So you'll be getting this in lecture very soon, okay? Well, on that lab that we did last week, we made a big assumption, okay? We made a big assumption that evolution occurred, okay? Because we couldn't make these evolutionary trees based on relationships, evolutionary relationships, if we didn't go under the assumption that, hey, evolution is occurring, okay? So that was a big assumption that we made going through that lab. And we're going to continue that assumption through this exercise today as well. So we're still going under the assumption that evolution does occur for this lab today, okay? And so in this lab, we're going to look at some of the evidence for evolution. And we're going to take a little trip to the Grand Canyon. Okay, so the Grand Canyon here in Arizona. If you've never been there, you really need to go. Okay, it's an awesome site. And we have arrayed around the room for you. We have some trays, which are fossils from the different layers of the Grand Canyon. Okay, so you're going to be going around on those. Okay. All right, so the first thing is we want to make sure that everybody knows what a fossil is. So who can tell me what a fossil is? Tick tock, right? Okay, so a fossil is just the remains, right, of a past living organism, right? Organism, okay? So now, does a fossil have to be an actual, does a fossil have to actually be like, if we were talking about a hedgehog, okay? Does it have to be a whole body of a hedgehog? Okay, so what are some examples of fossils? Okay? Teeth! Very good! All right. So, teeth, okay, bone. What you typically think of is you think of as fossils. And so usually the hard parts remain. The hardest parts, okay, are what we typically find because those are the last to decompose, okay? Soft tissue is very easy to decompose, and so that, goes away pretty quickly. What else could be considered a fossil? Well, we can also have impressions, right? Impressions, like maybe you can even typically call footprints. Let's say you're a hunter and you're tracking footprints of a mountain lion or a bear. Well, those are the remnants that they were there in mud, dried mud, so that's actually a fossil till it rains and it gets washed away. But so impressions, okay, so maybe foot or paw prints that have been fossilized, okay. We can have feathers, okay, the feathers, the patterns of feathers. Even poop, okay, even poop gets fossilized. And we can look at poop. What can we learn from poop? Maybe what they ingested, okay, so a little bit about the diet. So even poop can be considered a fossil as well. And fossils are being discovered all the time. And so, if they're building a building downtown, this happened a couple years ago. They were excavating, putting up a new high-rise downtown. And in that excavation, they discovered some pottery art from one of the Native American tribes here in Arizona. So all construction halted. and excavation teams came in to harvest and take data on, those fossils that were found, and then they had a timeline, and then remove them, and then construction could keep going. So you might find a fossil in your backyard someday. Who knows? Okay? So that's what you guys are going to do. Okay, so imagine that you've gone to the Grand Canyon, okay, and you're hiking down the Grand Canyon. And when you hike down the Grand Canyon, there's different bands, okay, as you're hiking down, bands of the rock that have different colors. So think about what could cause those different bands as you're going around the room and looking at these fossil specimens. So I have a handout for you. So here's the handout, and as you're going through the different trays representing each layer from the Grand Canyon, take some notes. Make some drawings of the specimens, look for trends, anything that might jump out at you, okay? So you're going to get about 10 minutes to do that. Not everybody has to start with tray A, goes A through G. So, some of you could start at G, some of you could start in the middle, but just make sure that you go around and you hit each one of the trays, okay? And then when you're done, I'd like you to come up, and one person from each group, what I want you to do is come up and make a drawing of 2 of the fossils that you observed from each layer, okay? You might give a little description too up here on the board. But the trick is, make sure that you're not copying fossils, okay? So if there's a tooth up here, okay, and we don't want everybody to draw a tooth, so if someone already drew a tooth, then pick something else that you observed to draw up there, all right? So we're going to do that, and it's going to take about 10 minutes, okay? So give them about 10 minutes to do that, and they go around, and then they'll come up, and you'll want to draw this beautiful representation of the Grand Canyon up here. Okay, so you'll want to put that up there as they're going around the room so that they can then make their observations. Okay, put those up. All right, and now we're going to have a little bit of discussion after they put their stuff up, okay, up here. And so the discussion. Okay, so now that you guys, you put your data up here on the boards for us to have a little discussion. So what were some of the trends that you guys observed? So, you write trends observed. And hopefully they'll start, giving some ideas like, oh, it seemed to be, we saw it go from simple to complex, okay? Small to big, okay? So if we look at this simple to complex, go, okay, so simple to complex, do you mean simple here, going complex down here? So they should say, no, that the simple ones seem to be down here, moving up to what they term to be more complex. Okay, so I'm going to put that in parentheses. Okay? All right, so we got a little bit of explanation, further explanation on this. Small to big. Some seem to persist. So some of the fossils seem to persist through multiple layers. Okay, that's interesting. Some seem to disappear. Maybe there was one that was found down here that we don't see anymore as we go through the specimens of the other layers. There seem to be some new up here, okay, some new fossils representing maybe a new organism. So maybe a fossil appeared in layer C and continued up that wasn't found in D, E, F, or G, okay? So these are some of the trends that you observed, and again, this is just a small sample of fossils found at the Grand Canyon. And so now we want to think about, what could be some possible reasons for these trends, okay? So what could be a possible reason why we see, that it's kind of going from simple to complex? Some persist, some disappear. And so think about, what could be a possible reason for that, okay? And remember what our assumption is. What are we assuming? We're assuming that evolution has occurred, okay? All right, so in thinking about reasons for these trends, okay, that kind of leads us that these rock layers, so these rock layers seem to be representing a sequence in time, right? Okay, so if they're representing a sequence in time, where do we think the older layers are? Okay, so where do we think the older layers are? Oh, on the bottom. Great. Okay, so these seem to be the old.